Hey guys, TruthWaves here. Um, just wanted to share a little speech. I say little that I had made. Um, Now this speech is in reference or conjunction with the Black Lives Matter movement. Um, and with this speech, I had created it, circa I think 2016, 2017. This was back when I was in high school, so the verbiage might be a little, you know, not out of context, but so to speak, maybe outdated. Now, some of these words I haven't used in a while. My vocabulary has grown and shrunken, and just like it's a little bit there, sometimes not. But either way, I just wanted to share it with you guys just because it's an insight to how I used to be and kind of still how I am now. Um, and I'll explain a little bit after I finish, going over the speech. Believe it or not, I never went public with the full speech because I was shut down by the high school officials as well as a lot of the students. There was a big uproar in the community as well as the school. There was a lot of students that didn't show up that day. They were fearful that there might be, maybe a riot or someone would get hurt or killed or even shot. Now, I'm not saying that I would do something like that personally, and I also don't agree with that personally, and I wouldn't wish that upon anybody in any public setting or private setting. The goal here is just to share a piece of who I was and kind of like who I still am and what I believe in and where I think this world should head, towards, you know, especially here in America as far as equality and making sure that people understand that we have to be able to work together in order to make this country great and be able to not only one succeed together but succeed successfully by yourself. That's the true goal. And I have many other topics that I want to be able to share with you guys, talk about. I'm very interested in just not only one helping people but guiding people along their paths and understanding that we're all here together. We're all alive. We all bleed the same way. And truth be told, you know, life is short. But here we go. Yeah. So the title of this speech was All Lives Matter. Um, and again, I'm sorry if the language is a little outdated, but I think I was still pretty much well versed whenever I was, 15 and 16 years old. Um, but here we go. So I am here today to state that we must stop BLM for All Lives Matter. BLM claims that they are an ideological and political intervention in a world where black lives are being targeted for demise, and that they are an affirmation to African Americans' contributions to the society and the resilience that they have for facing deadly oppression. They claim to acknowledge and respect differences in society. However, their claim to help their own by seeking racial justice and liberation and peace and seeking justice for black people, and by extension of all people, and claiming that they help the black community, but what they truly do for the black community and through all their protests and helping their communities is just a silly facade by ignorant people. MLK, which for some of you who may not know the abbreviation, is Martin Luther King, sought for racial justice. He had fought for black rights and won the right in a peaceful way. He wanted to help his fellow black communities by ending segregation and strengthening these communities. What has BLM done? Most BLM supporters claim that white cops target young black men, yet this is simply not true. The fact is, the majority of crimes in America come from black communities, and the majority of black deaths are caused by gang violence within the impoverished communities themselves. If BLM really cares, why not start by actually helping these black communities? A 2013 study done by the FBI shows that 90% of the blacks were murdered by blacks, and that 83% of whites were murdered by whites. People tend to die within their own communities and environment. As for the police, only 32% of blacks were killed by cops, unlike the 49% of whites killed by cops. The fact is, most people gunned down by cops aren't black, and the ones that are gunned down usually are guilty. In the cases where black people have been gunned down, the majority of the time the cop was in the right. Out of all the cases, only a few of the people gunned down were truly innocent. These deaths do not mean all cops are bad, and that all cops mean to shoot people. But there are some cops that murder people, and police brutality is a problem in our society. Cops are here not only to protect and serve this country, but our communities as well. BLM inflames the separation between blacks, whites, and even cops in their communities. There is no superiority over any race, no matter what race we are. We are all equal. The claim that BLM is facing deadly oppression is sickening because this is a time of freedom for all to make life what we want it to be. MLK and his movements, they faced true deadly oppression. He had died along with many of his followers to end segregation. Why dishonor him by bringing segregation and tension back? What is even worse is that the current president, Barack Obama, supports this racist, hypocritical group. He said, "These fatal shootings are not isolated incidents. They are symptomatic of the broader challenges within our criminal justice system. Racial disparities that appear across the system year after year, and the resulting lack of trust that exists between law enforcement and too many of these communities they serve." Not only did he say this, but he said that the movement must keep speaking truth to power. There is no racial differences. Humanity is humanity. Quit looking at color. The problem is at the root of black communities, for they are in desperate need of support. Mothers are trying to raise their children and teach them right from wrong while being surrounded by gang violence, drugs, and poor schooling. Grown men are acting like children with their pants sagging, with no respect for authority, themselves or their children. Young men follow in these footsteps, not knowing what to do right from wrong. Most black communities are lacking a good social structure. BLM is doing very little to actually help these communities. I'm not saying all the black communities are like this, but most are. Instead of helping these communities, they're increasing tension between the races. This movement must be stopped. All lives matter. We need to not only strengthen the black community, but all communities in America, because tensions between each other have grown. We must stop the spread of BLM due to the increasing support of BLM. Instead, remember MLK and the love and peace he brought that changed the world. For all lives matter. I encourage all of you to not only help your communities by volunteering, help each other, and by being a role model for your communities. I leave you with these words today to reflect on the choices you make in life. We all have to stand together as one, no matter what race or background we come from. So, with that being said, that was my speech. I actually never got to finish this speech. When I was in high school, there was a gathering of about, I'd say, 1,500 to 2,000 students. And it was a two-story, high school. and there was rows aligned in the hallways up top, and then all around, you know, the main entrance. And that's where I was. And I was before the podium, and I was, you know, not even a quarter way through my speech when a young, some people say African American or black um, woman came up to me and smacked me and stole the paper from my hands. Now, I didn't hold any sentiment against her. I wasn't angry at her. I understand that, for some, this is a hot topic, so to speak. The cultural divide and the societal divide that we have is very strong, and I wanted to break away from that and allow people to understand my perspective and realize that we all suffer if some people suffer. And what I mean by that, in the military, we stress the fact that, we're all a team, especially in the Marine Corps. We're all a team. We all fight as one. And whenever you have a, necessarily like weak link in a chain, and you're using that chain constantly, and let's say, that time comes where that chain needs to, support all the strength that it's meant to hold. What happens, when the tension is so strong, that weak link will break and everything falls apart. And that's how it is here in America. We see that today, and we saw that in the past. The degradation of our, social norms, the degradation of our own communities, within our society. It's saddening, and I wanted to bring light to the situation, and I still do, you know, and I wholeheartedly would want for a better society, but I understand that there is a divide, and what I truly want for people is to understand that we are in this together. We are a team, and your community does matter. Your family does matter. You matter yourself. And it starts with the individual person, understanding all of this, accepting these things, wanting better not only for yourself, but your family, for the people around you, the people that you interact with on a daily basis. We're not meant to live life alone. And even in that route, that way of thinking, we're not meant to think alone. We have a purpose, and that purpose is to have faith and to grow and to flourish and to, bring love and light to the people around us and to our communities. And that's where it truly begins. It's not some politician, it's not necessarily a movement, so to speak. It's about actually, committing to that faith, committing to that love, but wanting all of that. We have to escape the chains, and those chains are the divide that people want. And in reality, there doesn't need to be that divide. There really doesn't. And as far as the police matter, I myself, I don't trust police officers. That's just me. Everyone has their perspective, everyone has their opinions. That's to be expected. However, there is authority, and we have to respect the authority that is given and beholden to those individuals. And yes, there are some individuals that are not necessarily held to that standard or escape the matter within our judicial system. But that's where it comes to play in the fact that, hey, we need to make the steps that we can make, not expect everything to change just like that. Because sadly enough, you know, things don't fall apart just like that. I mean, unless it's like an explosion, but that's besides the point. Besides the point. When it comes to a society, it crumbles over time. And that's the same thing with Rome and many other empires, such as the Mongol Empire and so forth and so on. And the list goes on. And it's the same thing with America today. We didn't reach this point in one night. We reached this point over decades, over centuries of time. And my outreach that I have, my true goal is just to bring understanding of this topic to light. And I just pray that each and every single one of you, like in my speech, can not only gain, you know, wisdom, have discernment and knowledge and faith to walk a narrow path and be the light and be the love that your community needs and your family needs, because that's the world that we live in. That's the world that needs to be, is a life full of love and compassion. And I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.